How's everybody doing today?
Well, I just had a mini reunion with the people I went to college with
Oh, how
50
fun.
years ago. And here's the scary thing.
Mm.
They all look older. I mean, it's like they were in a time warp and I'm still 22.
I agree. You are. You still look 22 to me, Sandy. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. It's 3:04. Let's just kind of talk about what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be so much fun. I'm sharing my screen. There it is. Here's what I know. Part 2. Okay. So, just a quick recap. This is a 4-part series. This is part 2 of a 4-part series. Last week, we just talked about kind of the general overview of everything, and I gave you a quick summary of everything. And this week, we're going into a little bit more detail on some of the individual pieces of it. I wanted to just kind of spend some time going over the slides and talking a little bit from last week and going over and talking a little bit about Holding the Hope and who we are and what we do. If you want to know more about me, there's stories, there's lots of different things that you can look at our webpage, holdingthehope.com. If you're looking for continuing education for peer support specialists, you can go to peersupporttrainingcenter.com or thecarestoolkit.com. It's all there. It's all on demand. And the Peer Support Training Center also has some links to live training that we have scheduled. We have one coming up December 8th on de-escalation. So it's very awesome. And the Peer Support Training Center and the CARES Toolkit are both on-demand training centers. So we have if you need continuing education units, you can go there. You'll get the certificate at the end of the workshop, and it'll be great. Now, the other piece I want to talk to you about is the recovery alignment, which is my new upcoming workshop, which lasts 12 weeks. So it's not really a workshop, it's a learning collaborative, coaching, training, hybrid, where everybody comes together. And it's all about infusing recovery principles into your clinical practices. And so with that, if you follow recoveryalignment.com, all of the details will be there, and you can schedule an appointment with me to talk about whether or not this next upcoming cohort is for you. It starts in January, and just there's a link here. If you go to recoveryalignment.com, you can click a link and take you right to my calendar where you'll be able to schedule an appointment with me, and we can talk about what that entails, what it's about. But it's really for leadership, and it's really all about helping to retain staffing. This is really everything that I know about hope, the reasonable expectation that things can get better. So what I'm going to do for the next few minutes is kind of go over very briefly what we talked about last month, and then I'm going to go into what we're going to talk about this month. And then, so what we talked about last month was, as I said, a basic overview of things, and also, my understanding of hope. And of course, if you know anything about a lotus blossom, it is grounded on the bottom of that pond in very mucky, dirty, nasty sediment on the bottom. It's just all rotten, dead vegetation that's on the bottom of the pond. That's what the lotus blossom grounds itself in. So the lotus blossom is kind of my feature. I love that It's my thing. So what I would like you to do in order for you to get the best out of this series, clearly, if you join the VIP, if you just for free register in the VIP room, you're going to get the link. You're going to be able to go into the Zoom room where you can ask me questions, and you'll be able to access the chat room, and you can be much more involved in this rather than just simply watching it from social media. You can also pop some questions in the social media chat boxes or comment sections, and we will do our best to catch those. The other thing you can do to get the best out of this series is to pick a project, any project, because like you can learn by watching and you can learn by doing. And so when you have a project and you're taking these principles that I'm teaching you and you put them into practice and you have a project that you're working on and you're going along on, then you're going to be able to have that practice where you could practical application while it's still fresh in your brain. The other thing you can do is if you have an advocacy project, put together a team. Nobody does this alone. We just don't do this stuff alone. So get your team together, connect with your team. And the other thing then finally is to do the homework. Really, there's one slide in each set presentation that is about homework, that is your homework, and it's super easy. And but each one, the homework is designed to help you advance your project. So so do the homework. These are the things you can do to get the best out of this series. Or you can just listen to it and be like, that is a really good idea. If you get one thing out of it, I'll be happy. So here's what you can expect from this series. There's 3 parts left, and today I should change this, a 4-part series that we've done the overview last month. This month we're going to talk about commitment, and then we're going to talk about understanding next month, and we're going to talk about implementation. And what I need you to understand is that from my perspective, everything is infused with recovery. Everything is based on the SAMHSA's guiding principles of recovery. It's all there. Now, my approach to recovery is pretty basic. If you can work, if you can love, if you can play, you're fine, right? Get on the bus and go to work. Go visit your friends. Go do what you're going to do, and know that that's part of your recovery. So I thought, how can I take that and kind of convert that from an individual to an agency or a group, and or make it a little bit more, kind of bump it out a bit and make it a bit less personal and more global. And what I came up with was purpose, relationships, and joy. If you can find purpose in your life, if you have relationships or you know how to develop relationships, or you can have, you're working on the internal relationships at your agency, great. And then joy, right? That's joy. It's pretty self-explanatory. And so that's kind of my approach to recovery: purpose, relationships, and joy. So I just kind of overlaid that onto what we're going to be talking about the next few months, and it worked really well. Let's take a really brief, quick look at what we talked about last month. We talked about advocacy. What is it? Different types of advocacy, and where we could find those definitions and how we're defining advocacy. We talked about the different types of advocacy, and we talked about how the different type of advocacy would apply to a different issue and advocacy, right? So a citizen advocacy is going to be maybe a little bit different than peer advocacy or self-advocacy. And so depending on the issue that you have, the type of advocacy you're going to employ or entail is going to be what is going to be determined by the issue. We talked about the principles of advocacy: clarity of purpose, safeguard, confidentiality, equity and diversity, and the empowerment and putting people first. We spent a lot of time talking about this. And so I'm hoping that you have, that you had some time to watch this last month's video, or to, if you were able to join us, that's fantastic too. So principles of advocacy. If you missed this, you can jump on my YouTube channel, and I'm fairly certain it's there. And then that brings us to last month's homework, which was know yourself. And so I had you identify your top 5 values. We talked a lot about values. I shared mine, right? I shared my statement. I shared my superpower. And I invited you to go onto Google, find a toolkit, identify your top 5 values, and identify your superpower, and then to create a statement for about yourself that, I am a joyful, kind, inspirational woman, gratefully determined to empower myself and others now. Right? That snap is important. So I'm wondering, because we talked a lot about values, and we talked about how making sure that the work that you're doing aligns with the values that you have. And so I'm just wondering if anybody would like to talk about their homework that they did last month, and wants to share anything that they came up with from their last month's homework. Did anybody do their homework? Everybody's camera is off. Everybody's microphone is off. Nobody did their homework.
Oh, no. I'm a retired teacher. The dog ate my homework.
What did you say?
The dog ate my homework.
Oh.
No, I found looking at values, just as you said, there is much online to Google. I found quizzes and whatever. And I think for me that the values, they kind of blend into one another. And I value authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is a big one because of where I've come from. And so in some of these values also kind of hold me back in that there's a hurdle to cross in order for me to really, my heart and soul, to feel trust in another. Wisdom, spirituality, and respect. And my statement, because a reality that I'm still dealing with is I don't feel like I am at the end of recovery. I'm more like at the beginning, because I spent so many years dissociating from the trauma. And so in addressing the trauma, that is its own hard journey. And I've connected with others who've gone through similar things, and it's the same for others. Mm-hmm. I wrote, I am committed to making a difference in our world. Mm-hmm. With growing compassionate wisdom through authentic dialogue from my lived experiences with disability and trauma. And I've been tweaking it, and so it's nothing set in stone, but that's, to me, the most authentic thing that I can write, because that's where I'm at.
Okay.
So that's all.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate that. So we did a quick review of last month's slides. And so I'm wondering if anybody wants to share their homework, their Know Yourself homework. There we go. Let's put that over here. Anybody else? Thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate you sharing that. So Lisa put in the chat, I am a strong, kind, respectful woman, determined to love myself and others now. Don't forget that now in there, Lisa, and the snap. That's awesome. I love that. And were you able to identify your top 5 values? Now. What were your top 5 values? I'll put you on the spot. Sorry about that. That's okay. Her camera isn't working, is what she's reading. Okay, you think about that and you get back to us. And as I said, there was so many different kinds of worksheets for you to go through and look at the different values and internal, external, but I think often when we look at the list, There's some that just be like, oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. That's me. That's me. So, but I think it's important for us also to really know what those are, so that when we run into trouble, it's pretty clear we've already determined what we will and won't do around. So we've already determined our values. So then determining action based around your values often is really helpful and easier once you've got those values just spelled out right in front of you. So that was last month's homework. Does anybody have any comments or anything that we went through last month that you just has really been helpful to you over the month, that you've thought about, that you know about?
For myself, I was very deeply appreciative of participating last month, and I think that even Googling and looking at what values, the work that others have taken on values and identification is eye-opening.
Yeah.
And one of the surveys that I took showed how, if you value these things, but the organization you work with, through your feedback of what you sense they value, if there's a dissonance, there's like a problem that defies words. And so it's important to go into these values so that our head and our heart are combined.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Yes. Really helpful. Okay, well, let's keep moving. So that takes us to the end of last month. And so I want to talk now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about commitment, right? The three pieces: commitment, understanding, and implementation. So this month we're going to talk about commitment. And really, I have I tried to find graphics that would kind of create the image of what sometimes we're up against. And sometimes there's systems in place that just are intractable. So when you're talking about commitment, you have to understand that the other person has a commitment as well. So their commitment could be part of their job, right? So if being part of their job, and they in their dealings with you, they become the spokesperson for the department. Often it's not their personal opinion that they're giving you, but it is the opinion that needs to be spoken. So they're going to be speaking on the behalf of the established structure that's there. And so the other piece that you want to know is then, what does that established structure look like? Is it a coalition? Is it a government agency? Is it a coalition of government agencies? Is it a bunch of people who have an informal working relationship? How is this? What is this thing that you're going to be moving against, or moving through, or moving with? Right? You have to know what that is to be able to impact it effectively. And then also understand what's in it for that person. Is it that they want to keep their job? They want to get a promotion. They want to work with you. They see you as a huge asset and they don't want you to be angry with them. What is it for them? What's in it for them that's going to make them feel successful, so that they can say, okay, this is what we came up with. And so that if you know what their values are, what are their values? And if you know what's in it for them, if you understand their goals and their structure that they're in, then at that point, you can build a plan of action for yourself that is going to be a strategy for addressing, and perhaps you have aligned values. Perhaps you have dissonant values. Perhaps the system has one value, but the person has another value. So the question is then, what are the values? And then what kind of a strategy or a plan are you going to put in place to make sure that that those values stay there? So that's the commitment that we have for them. And then the other commitment that we have is with regards to ourselves, our internal commitment. And so we want to look at, as we move into this process that we're going into, this advocacy that we're taking on, what kind of a leadership structure is there going to be? Is it going to be like you and others? If so, how are you going to organize, and who's going to do what? One of the things that we learned from the women's movement years ago, back in the 70s, is that not everybody has to do everything. That's where I learned it anyway, right? So that there are some people that are really good at some things and not good at others. And so you find, what are the strengths that you're good at? What are the strengths that your teammates are good at? And delegate those tasks accordingly. And because if you have your strategy, with your strategy, there are going to be some tasks that you're going to have that are going to just come naturally out of those strategies. So how will you organize yourself? What are the strengths? The other thing that I think is really interesting is, are you willing to lose? This is a question that we ask ourselves, right? Are you willing to just run into a brick wall? And if so, what then? So this is where you have to understand that this is more than just getting angry and flying off the cuff, right? This is a strategic approach to a situation. And if we are going to be analyzing the options that are going to be coming out of these strategies and tasks, then one of the things is like, how do we know that we've lost? Well, one of the ways that you might want to know is to know, what is it that you want? What exactly do you want? And you have a list. What is it that you want, and why do you want them? It's really important to be super clear and super specific with this. You don't want it to be something that can be easily dismissed or easily ignored or sidetracked. Very specific, kind of like a SMART, right? Specific, measurable, time sensitive, achievable, realistic. You want a SMART outcome. You want those things, and you want more than one. Or maybe you just want one. But we don't want to say, I want this, and if I don't get this, I'll take that. No, because then you'll just get that. So you want to go in with, this is what I want. This is why I want it. This is why I think it's really important. And this is how it aligns with my values. And I know it aligns with your values. And this is where we can work together to make this happen. So if they say no, at that point, then you have to know, okay, what is my plan B, my plan C, my plan D? What are my strategies going to be if I don't get the thing that I want? Some people are just like, well, I'll just come back again and come back again and come back again. And that may be true, but is there, like, for instance, if you want a pay raise, but you're not sure you can get it because the agency, there's a chart that says who gets what. Well, then maybe your plan B is to take a look at that chart and to create a conversation around having an agency-wide discussion about the validity of the chart. And so you don't get your raise immediately, but you get to change what's blocking you from getting your raise. I am going to hang on just 1 second. I'm going to stop the
recording. Stopped.
Because I am, where's my video? I am going to step away for just a minute, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm not at home and nothing is where I thought it would be, and I realized I left something on the stove. Okay, recording pause. Let's turn it back on and keep going.
Recording in progress.
All right, so let's keep going. We were talking about commitment. So, right, so we're talking about commitment. We're talking about what is it that you want? What is it that you want if you don't get it? And why do you want it? Now, here's the thing that I think is really important is, and I talked about this a little bit the last time, is we have our personal experience. And so it motivates us, right? And it influences us. But if we go back to that same example, I want to raise, when we go to advocate to get the salary chart or salary scale changed or at least reviewed, we're not going to come at it from the perspective of, this didn't give me the raise I wanted. I want a raise. This didn't happen. And so we have to change this. That's maybe why we're doing it, but we're going to come at it from a perspective of, this chart is not fair anymore. It's 20 years outdated and it no longer suits the job descriptions that we currently have. Some of the jobs that are listed on this chart don't even exist anymore. And we've just stuck some of the new ones in here, like they sort of fit, but they really don't. So this thing really needs to be completely revised. It's time. See, you see the difference there? It's like going to a public meeting, a board meeting, and where as an advocate, right, you go to the mental health advisory board for services in your system. It's an advisory board that advises the county executives on how to create mental health services. And you go there and you say, I can't get a psychiatrist, I can't get my medications, I can't get my medicine that I want. A better way, and what they're going to do is they're going to say, whoa, that's way, we don't do any personal thing like that. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your feedback, and you should talk to your psychiatrist about that, or you should talk to the agency about that. So a better way to go about that would be to say, it's come to my attention that some of the medicines that many people need is no longer in our prescription formulary. And so I'm wondering how that happened, and maybe who created this formulary, and is it possible to revisit it? How often does it come open that you add meds to it or take medicines off of it? So how can I be involved in the development of the pharmaceutical, the drug formulary that this particular agency provides, or this insurance company provides? Do you see the difference there? So we use our personal experience as a motivator. We use our personal experience as an influence, but we don't bring our personal experience into the workplace. Unless, it's really a nuanced stuff, right? Sometimes we do bring it in. Sometimes we do say, I'm here to say, this is what happened to me. I didn't get my prescription, and so but we're not there arguing. We're using that as an example. I didn't get my prescription because no one told me it was no longer on the new drug formulary. And so what happened was, I couldn't get the medicines I needed. The medicines that I need, the other medicines that are on the formulary, I already know don't work for me. And so I wound up losing my job and I wound up homeless. And so I'm here to tell you that there are bad things happening in our community because of this unintended consequences in our community because of this particular drug formulary. So there's a way to use our personal experience as an example of why things need to be changed, but we're not going to go and advocate for our personal needs in an inappropriate or irrelevant setting. It's like you can go to the DMV and pay your property taxes, but they're still going to disclose. I mean, it's not going to work, right? They're going to be like, yeah, I know you're here to pay taxes, but wrong tax place. So it's just really important. And next month, when we talk about understanding, we're going to talk about that a lot more. But I want to be, and especially as in peer-run organizations, our power is in our story. But being a really good peer support specialist, we also know when to tell our story, how much of our story to tell, when not to tell our story, who has rights to our story, right? Sometimes people think just because you're employed as a peer support specialist, then you should be able to tell your story to anybody, anywhere, anytime. That we have, that your mental health history or your substance use disorder history is just available. And that's not the case. That's not the case. We have discretion as to what parts of our story we tell, whether we talk about our diagnoses or anything else. So when we use our personal experience, we need to do that with discretion and with forethought. Any comments on any of this we've covered so far? Okay. So, we've talked about this. I know what I know is in my life that I went to a retreat once, and the retreat master, it was a 12-step retreat, and one of the 12 steps has to do with being restored to sanity. And so he wanted to talk about, well, what does sanity even look like, right? What does that mean? And so what he talked about recovery as being able to work, being able to love, being able to play. And I just think that that was so simple, and it was so real, and it was so individualized and very practical. When I think about how do I then take recovery principles and convert them into something we can point to and operationalize in our behavioral health industry and in the work that we do, I brought it translates to me into purpose, relationships, and joy. So if we can find purpose in the work that we do, if we can create relationships, and if we can have joy, then to me, that's kind of another way of looking at work, love, and play. And so I want to take these three concepts and just overlay them onto the concepts that we've just covered. So if we look at purpose, I'm wondering then, does this project align with your values and with your purpose? So hopefully, as you looked at your values, you looked at your purpose statement there, that I am right? This is who I am. This is what I do. And so we sometimes we feel like we have a purpose, and sometimes we feel like we don't. But if we feel like we have a purpose, does this project align with our purpose and with our values? And so in order to be able to determine that, we need to know, why are we doing this? And is this the rock that we're willing to die at, right? Is this the fight I'm willing to make? So if I bring this up, there's a potential I could lose my job, or I could really be kind of ostracized in my community or whatever. This is really important to me. How are you going to bring that forward? When we talk about purpose individually, purpose of our agency, purpose of our department, all of those have to align. And so as a leadership, we need to look at, do the people that I work with people who work for me, do they understand the purpose of their job? And do they understand how their job aligns with what this department's all about, and how that department then aligns with what this agency is all about? And are we able to make changes at the bottom that are going to come all the way up to the top, or at the top that are going to go all the way down to the bottom? Because sometimes somebody will change a purpose, right? Well, you guys, really, the reason you're doing this now is different. And so suddenly the agency is out of alignment with the purpose that the person was hired for. I'm sorry, the department was out of alignment with what this person was originally hired for. And they feel like, wait a minute, I don't feel like this fits with me anymore. And so when we're making changes, and when we're creating, when we're looking to make changes and we're advocating for change, we have to look at the whole big picture, because nobody is going to give in to a advocate request if it's going to throw their whole deal out of alignment, and if it's going to upset the apple cart even a little. If everything is just barely clicking along, if they change one thing, it's going to throw everything else out of balance. They're not going to want to do that. Think about What can you ask for that isn't going to throw everything out of balance and is going to keep everybody still focused on the purpose? And how maybe what you're asking for is actually going to help realign a purpose that has been lost or minimized or undermined just over time sometimes, right? That just happens from expediency. Well, we're supposed to do it this way. And it all started back in the day when we really needed this in our community. So we started doing that. And then it just got changed a little. And now it's this something completely different. Right. And so we really need to look at, how does this project impact alignment? Why are we personally looking at it? And is this the rock that we're willing to die on? Is this so integral to our purpose that that we're willing to move forward with it? Now, that might be a little dramatic, right? But are we willing to take the heat is the other question. Oftentimes people will not take on a project because they simply are not willing to take the heat, right? They simply are not willing to be they simply are not willing to be labeled with maybe being a potential troublemaker or anything like that. So yeah. Now, one of the ways that people oftentimes will try to advocate is to better understand a process, and so we're gonna talk about that next month too. But it's just really important how purpose and process and all of this all go together. So when we talk about purpose, we look at not just our own purpose, but the purpose of the department, the purpose of this, all those cubicles and that flow chart that was on the very first one. Like why are they there? And how is what you're asking for going to impact why they are there? And look at it from their perspective, right? Like if you go to somebody and you say, I really need I need my pay changed. And they're like, what does that have to do with me? Right? I'm not in HR. Well, it does impact you, and you do have what you do does impact it. And maybe you can explain to them better how, and you can create some allies around purpose that would seem unusual. So yeah, thinking about purpose. So we're getting done early today because I was going to have a guest speaker, but she wasn't able to make it. And so I said, you know what? I don't think nobody ever gets mad about getting out early. So I want to talk a little bit about your homework for next month. And really it has to do with creating that commitment, because we're talking about commitment, and purpose comes with commitment. So purpose really helps us solidify our commitment, right? So if we have a homework, I'm wondering if you have a team. If you have a team, be really great if you could talk to them about the issues on that commitment slide, the you slide, and formalize each of the roles. If you don't have a team, then find somebody you can talk about. So go talk to your team and really talk about this, and talk about this one too, right? And really have a conversation about these. It's like, think of it as a strategy meeting, and really bring these strategies, this commitment into your strategy sessions. So make sure that the team has values, make sure that the team members on the team share the values, or at least understand each other's. And then also make sure that everybody on your team understands the level of commitment that's required, that you understand the level of commitment people are able to give. Some people are like, no, I can't take on a leadership. I can just be a worker bee. Some people are like, no, I can't even be a worker bee. I can just talk good about you guys out in the community. I can be an ally for you. I will sign a petition, right? So thinking if you have a team, make sure that you also know everybody's limits on that team. What are they willing to lose? And what are they, and how are they going to know when they're done? I had a friend once, and I was taking on this new leadership role, and he had several leadership roles. And I was taking a leadership role in an organization that was in chaos. And he was so helpful to me. He said, figure out when you're done. How will you know when you're done? And usually we know when we're done because our term is up, right? We're sitting on a board and our term is up and we're done. And that was what I was thinking. He's like, no, How will you know when you're done? And it was so great for me because I had a specific goal in mind that when I achieved that, I would know I was done and I could step down. And it didn't matter how much cajoling, oh no, you can't leave, we need you, blah, blah, blah. It didn't matter. In my head, I was done. I had achieved what I had set out to achieve. I knew when I was done. So important to know that. And it's so important for when your teammates to know, it's so important for on the team for you to know when your teammates are being done, so that when you'll know that we're working towards this goal. And when we accomplish this, Janet is going to leave. And so we're going to need to find somebody with her skills, and always be on the lookout for people with good skills. So the other thing you really want to talk about with your team is, what do you want? Make sure that everybody is in alignment with what they want, or at least is willing to support publicly the list of what people want, the list of demands, right? So you have, because oftentimes you can undermine the entire process if everybody's asking for something different. And then the people that you're asking for things from can easily dismiss it, because they're like, you guys don't even know what you want. How are we supposed to be able to satisfy you when you don't even, everybody's asking for something different. You can't even get your act together here. You know, go away, figure it out and come back. We don't want that. Okay. Lisa came up with her values. Loyalty, compassion, generosity, honesty, and integrity. Those are awesome, Lisa. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Okay. All right. So we talked about purpose and how that overlays onto what we're talking about. You have your homework. So if you, like I say, if you don't have a team and you're taking something on by yourself, at least have somebody that you can use as a sounding board, somebody that knows you. The other thing is also, I think it's really interesting. I heard this once and I thought, that's interesting. If you have a question and or you have a perception of how things are rolling out, you have a perception, if something happened and you have a perception of what that was, it would be really great to go to somebody who thinks very differently about life than you and ask them their perception of what just happened, so that you can get several different perceptions of the event that happened. And so you can be like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. So if you don't have a team, you just have what's going on in your own mind. And sometimes for me, that's just a dangerous neighborhood. So get other people to talk to you, people that who know you, or people who are very different from you, so that you can have a sounding board and a perspective. And you won't get blindsided then by an adversary saying, that's not what I meant at all. That's not what I meant. So if you get a different perspective, you can have a strategy for that perspective as well. So it's just a win-win. All right. So again, I want to tell you a little bit about Holding the Hope. Here we are. Here I am. I'm so glad you guys joined me. And I really would love to talk a little bit about recovery alignment while I have you here, because we're coming a little bit early here. And there we go. So recovery alignment is a customized program, and it's a learning collaborative. So what happens is there's 3 phases to recovery alignment. It's 12 weeks long. Let's see let's see, I'm going to get there. Here's what you get. Good stuff. All right, here we go. So what does it include? The first step is an assessment. We send you a Survey Monkey for you to send out to your staff. Super quick, takes less than 5 minutes for them to do it. Some people have done incentives where they've given everybody a gift card, and so they've gotten 100% participation. It's been great. Other people just are small and they do it, and they help each other do it, and they do it. It's an assessment. It's based on the knowledge, the Yale recovery knowledge inventory scale, and it's really just to see where are we with how does our staff understand recovery. And then I am going to go through the answers to the survey that came from your staff. I'm going to write up a customized report for your agency, and it's going to identify areas that you're doing really well in, and it's going to identify areas that you have some fantastic opportunities in. And then you're going to look at those areas of opportunity and you're going to pick one project. From there, we're going to kind of identify who are the people. We're going to make a commitment. We're going to identify who are the people that are on the team that are going to be implementing the changes. And then we're going to spend some time actually implementing the changes. You're just going to pick one thing that you want to change, and we're going to walk with you. And there's 12 people, 12 agencies in the collaborative. So you'll have 11 other perspectives, at least 11. If there's more than one person from each agency, you'll have a lot of different perspectives. We're going to meet probably like 3 times a month. So you'll have a lot of opportunity to talk about the issue from different perspectives. One of those months is kind of an Ask Me Anything that I do. And then Lori Vincent is going to be the other coach, and she's going to be really walking you through. She's just the most methodical, wonderful. The way her brain works is really awesome. So we're going to go through those. And then at the end of the 12 weeks, if you want, you can do another survey to kind of measure growth. But what you're going to come away with at the end of 12 weeks is a established procedure for you. So you're going to know, when I go to implement change in my agency, here's what happened and here's how we adjusted to it. But you'll have an established structure to make some changes. And the thing about change, it's so hard to do on your own. And so that's why I really just created this community. I only do this twice a year, and I really, really would love it. If you're interested, go to recovery, see right here, recoveryalignment.com. And there's places throughout here. You can just read all about it. There's so many information, and then just click on one of these and it'll take you to my calendar, and you can schedule an appointment and we can talk for 10, 15 minutes and see if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay too. There might be other things that Holding the Hope can do. Part of recovery alignment is you get some training, you get some on-demand training, you get some live training. So it's really a wonderful comprehensive approach to helping you infuse these recovery principles into all of your HR practices and into your overall agency leadership. All right, so let's go back to where I was. If there's anything else I can do, any questions about what we covered so far today?
I have a question about the recovery alignment.
Yeah.
Is it a pay? Do you have to pay for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, it's 3:52. I'm going to let you go unless you have anything else, and otherwise I will see you next month. I already have next month. I'll chart it out. I'm very excited. We're going to talk about understanding. We're going to learn, talk about different ways to learn about where, the system that you're in, what things you need to know. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you later. Nice to see you again, Rhonda.
Recording stopped.